Greetings once again from Costa Rica, Galactic 0 points, latitude 9. We're 9 degrees above the equator. Here to bring the equalizing and the unifying. And I always like to say we're in the no time and the no space. So you find this at the perfect moment in time. Messengers from the future, bringing the way, the truth, and the light based on our personal embodied perspectives. The actual living of the way of the death and the rebirth and the ascension. What it looks like. You know, the death isn't so physical. That the death we die to sin. Sin meaning without in Spanish. Without spirit. The death we die to living without spirit. And so now we're coming into a time of embodiment. The spirit is made flesh. And that's the call of the great purification that we're in right now, and that is the rapture. The rapture, I refer to Gene Key 30, it is the purification of the lower astral body. You could say the lower astral body is the underworld. It's the temptations, it's the desires, it's the individual I, me, my plan, like my will versus thy will. And so as we start to consider the idea of moving around in what's called the law of one, let's have some fun. We go from service to self to service to others. And we start to resurrect more of a collective frequency field. Which I would say is the highest timeline for all. There was a time in my initiation that I thought we'd be ascending and leaving this planet and flying away in our little starships, going away to our other star systems. And then I realized, oh, it's all right here, right now, in this moment in time. Don't get it twisted. Bring it down here, not running away, not going anywhere, here to ground it in. Bringing the monad down to the physical. Monadic, celestial, star, origin, consciousness, source, coming down into the physical form and leaving behind anything within the self that is not that. Being able to see beyond the field of denial, the veil, the firmament, whatever it is that keeps you from being able to become the neutral observer of yourself and see your patterns and your thoughts, your personal importance, the final last pieces of your egoic structure that are no longer serving the return of a harmonious balance on the earth. And that's the real work we come to do. You know, bring ourselves into balance and harmony, bring ourselves into peace. And that's how we start to see as within, so without, bringing the heavens to the earth, bringing peace to the earth, bringing harmony and balance to the earth, is it starts with us. It starts with us within ourselves first. Thank you all for doing the work. Thanks for holding the field. Thank you for doing that purification. Thank you for being honest with yourself. You know, and we're all here to support each other on that journey. Getting a little Spanish lesson in the background from River. I posted a lot of nature videos today. We've had the hummingbirds and the big bumblebees. I'm talking about those ones that, like, you know, you hear them before they're there. They're like, zzz, and they're this big, like the fuzzy bumblebees that you would see in like a fairy tale picture with amanita mushrooms or something. It's so beautiful. They were flying around and just getting down in these flowers. The Bobansana tree that we have here is just so beautiful. We've had the royal blue and yellow birds coming to see us representing Sirius. And we're also working with, what else came in today? The hummingbird, of course. I mean, these are my daily visitors in the garden. May we all find that is a sign of living in the causal plane. We can we can know about the causal plane, but to live in the causal plane, you're in a level of awareness where you're becoming one with nature and you're observing, witnessing, and able to note. The birds are always there. They're always there, but oftentimes we're quite distracted with technology or the scripts or what's going on. And so to really bring ourselves into the presence so that we can witness, so that we can be a part of, so that we can feel one with the nature again. It's part of the ultimate healing. Nature is one of the ultimate healers. The other ultimate healer is us remembering that we are the ones that came to heal ourselves. And we don't put anybody in that position to do that for us. See, we're calling in as many embodied frequency holders as possible. That's the rise of the guardians. That is the next level initiation. So the willingness and the maturity to be able to look at and see all of the pieces within ourselves that are here to be released so that the divine will can fully come through. And that's when we move out of tension and resistance in our life, in our situations, in our relationships, right? Removing tension and resistance has to do with letting go of my will and surrendering to thy will. I highly recommend the book. I like to dive deep into the mysteries of things, but this book is called The Surrender Experiment. It was an audio book I read about 8 years ago before I came here to Costa Rica. And if I hadn't have read that book, I might have died, or I might have made different decisions in my life. But I was learning that there is a plan and a structure to things, and to continually surrender to whatever comes to me. And to start navigating my life with a deeper level of trust. And here we are. So the book is called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. It's a great audio. And actually, what's so interesting about that book, it's the first time I'd really heard someone talking about taking mushrooms. Like before that, I'd heard of the idea of mushrooms, magic mushrooms, psilocybin and things like that. And I was like, whoa, get out, and I was hearing about people taking drugs and jumping out of windows and killing themselves and all of these ideas around psychedelics. It definitely wasn't for me. I was like, full fuck no, out of here, get these things out, no drugs, say no to drugs. Maybe a little Santa Maria. I was just opening up to that a little bit. I guess I'm going to share a little bit of my journey with medicine, and how I was feeling about those things. And my direct experiences with that, because I've actually been feeling the inspiration to write a book about, some people call it medicine, but we could just straight up call it all drugs. It's interesting what we classify as a drug versus not. Your phone is a drug. Sugar is a drug. There are many drugs out there, many substances or many things that keep our minds lured into the lower nature. And so how do we decide what's considered a drug or not, and what's considered a drug that's good for you or not, pharmaceuticals or medicines or whatever. So I didn't know I was going to go here, but I feel like I'm going to take y'all on a journey a little bit with my journey and just share some of my direct experiences with drugs. actually. But before we start, we're in 222 on the galactic count, which is right here. This is my real cosmic computer. This is the synchronotron. This is how I measure synchronicity. This is the time traveler's guide to the universe. And we are on kin number. We're on the yellow sun today. The yellow sun is this yellow strip across the bottom. So we're on the solar tribe of the sun. All right. And we're on the number 220 crystal sun. Okay. So this is a 260 measurement or count or cycle. And we're on day 220. That means we have 40 days left in this 260-day cycle. Which is interesting because I was just noticing in tropical astrology, the moon and Venus are at gene key 40. So this number 40 is coming up a lot. And gene key 40 is connected to divine will. It's the final sacred seal to break. It's sacred seal number 1, but it's the final seal because we go up and then we bring it all down to embody it on the physical earth plane. So gene key 40, I'll probably be bringing that in a little bit, but I want to talk to you guys a little bit about this surrender experiment, because I'm just surrendering to the flow of where this is going. And I'm sharing this because some of you may or may not know, or you will see at some point, there was a person with a big following named Samuel Lee. And apparently he's been putting a lot of guardian information like Lisa Renee, Ascension Glossary, Ashiana Dean type of stuff, but kind of in an AI form. And the first time I ever heard of him, my mom sent me a video of his. My mom was like sending me all the woke stuff. I was like, oh my God, my mom is sending me this. Like, we're here. And I'm so grateful for my mom and my dad to have an open mind. And actually, they're coming up on their 44-year anniversary. It's crazy, July 19th, which is the day that in astrology, there's something called the basalt basket. And depending on if you're measuring it from tropical astrology or 13-month astrology, it's that like 4 main planets are all at 4 degrees at the same time, like Neptune, what is it? Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, Jupiter maybe, are all at a 4-degree point. I think that's what's going on. It might be Saturn, I don't know. But anyways, some of the main outer planets will all be aligned at 4 degrees in tropical astrology, or 9 degrees in 13-month astrology. And so we can kind of break that down more in a language of the gene keys if we want to. But anyways, that's starting on July 19th, which is my mom and dad's anniversary. So mom and dad, if you're watching, happy anniversary in 2 days. I love you guys. I kind of initiated that marriage. I was their, I would say their Valentine's Day conception surprise. They were young ones, found out they were pregnant. I was born November 18th, so I always joke like those middle of November birthdays were Valentine's Day love conceptions, love children. Yeah, and somehow my mom and dad made it through, young marriage to my mom still popping to my dad still popping my mom on the ass when I see them, like they still seem to have that love for each other. I'm so grateful for that. So I'm 43, I'll be 44 in November. And my mom and dad have been married for 44 years on July 19th. So we'll talk about that basalt basket a little bit. But yeah, let's read this galactic affirmation. Thank you, Marcus. This is the kin we're on. And we're on the 12th day of the wave spell of the red moon cycle. And this whole cycle, we're on the 12th day of it. This whole cycle has been about the purification. You could connect it with emotions. You could connect it with just cleaning and purifying. The moon cycle is never easy. I'll just say that. there's a lot coming up about the moon right now. People are talking about, is the moon fake? Is the moon real? Like all of the things. But the more important thing is we're talking about, like, it's been a cycle of purification, and I'm owning that. I've had my own things come up, and when you start to understand the waves work like that, you can kind of look back and be like, oh, so am I facing it? Am I facing this purification? And what am I doing to handle it? And it's connected to attracting the flow. It's attracted or connected to water. So get in the water if you can, get in the nature if you can, and let go and flow if you can. In fact, it's a matter of life or death to learn how to flow in these waves. But the crystal sun is the 12th tone, so we're finishing up with this. We're about to go into the magnetic wind cycle in a couple days, which will be a cycle of listening and communication and spirit and the breath and the high priestess energy. So we'll be bringing in, we needed to clean some shit so we could hear. You know, we need to clean the earwax out so we can actually hear the messages of the spirit. We got to get rid of any of that stubborn stuff that's been going on in our life so that we can actually hear and feel the spirit communication that wants to come through. And the sun is about enlightenment. So we're looking at shining a light on and being able to see, you know, what we couldn't see. And the universal fire of the sun, you know, has been guiding us on this journey so far in these 12 days. And tomorrow will be the finish, which is the cosmic dragon. So tomorrow is a cosmic dragon day, 13th zone, take cosmic flights. But let's talk about today. Kin 220, you could take that 0 off and make it a 22. Yellow crystal sun. I dedicate in order to enlighten, universalizing light. I seal the matrix of universal fire with the crystal tone of cooperation. The 12th tone is the crystal tone. It's always the tone of cooperation. And I'm guided by the power of free will, which is the yellow human. You know, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm dedicating in order to enlighten myself and bring my flavor of that to you. Universalizing life, stealing the matrix of universal fire. And here we are cooperating. And I see that we're in harmonic 55 as well. The crystal matrix, self-regulate, universal fire of cooperation. And so the 55, I connect to the gene keys. It's 911 here, 1111 on the East Coast. And yeah, here we are. And the 55 is the freedom fighter. It's a dragonfly's dream, which I might be bringing up some stuff about the sound of freedom. So first, you know, let's talk about the Samuel Lee dude for just a second. I don't want to be insensitive to what happened there. It sounds like back in February of last year, a woman came to him in South Florida, Miami, and she paid him $2,000 to do what was called a heart opening protocol that he offers. Now, I don't know if he was actually bringing guardian or like ascension stuff at that time, because I can't really find data about him that long ago. I did see that he started to bring a presence online and start pumping out the volume, pumping out information. Oh, I see my little orchid is showing herself just a little bit. Check her out. She's so beautiful. She's been here for a few days. It's like very masculine and feminine, and also kind of dragon, if you can see it, you know? It's so beautiful. Nature. She grows right outside of my door. This is the first time she's bloomed. I've seen her around in different places, but this is the first time she's bloomed at this current location, so I'm very happy to see her. And I know my blue hydrangeas are about to come out. I love blue hydrangeas. I don't know if you know that flower. You know, Costa Rica gets pretty hot, but here in the mountain, it's a little cooler. And so we get the blue hydrangeas here. I just love it. I love things that are blue, that frequency of blue. But not that methylene blue stuff. Like, I don't even know what that is. I saw they're cutting open brains and it's turning blue from this blue dye and stuff. Like, we really don't, yeah. We don't need all this shit. Everything's just being sold. It's like the next thing to sell, the next thing to sell. What's going to be next? Who's going to fall for it? Buy this, buy that. And it's like, everything's been about economy and capitalizing, and like here we are capitalizing on the awakening of humanity. It's like, you know, when everyone's ready to clean up their life and go into the cleaner, you know, more organic space, then it's like, okay, what can we market? What can we sell? Even if it's not really what they need, but we can market it like that. And then everybody just keeps falling for it. And then you're like, caught in this wheel where you gotta like make money to buy the stuff to get awakened. And it's, in my personal experience, you know, I kind of went complete reversal and a bit of a shock, because I had built quite a financial nest for myself and a lot of financial success for myself. And I did have the ability to buy whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. But as I started to awaken, it's like, I was like slowly letting go of my grip. In fact, I mean, I've made $500,000 selling supplements at one point in my life. Like, I got out of the tech industry and I built a business. It was a direct sales business, something I never thought I would get involved in ever, you know? And it was like, the next thing you know, I was not just slinging vitamins though. I was helping people look better, feel better, have energy for their children, leave their jobs so they could be at home with their children. Like, I was really priding myself on time freedom and leaving behind the system as much as possible and spending more time in the presence with your children. And so, yeah, that's kind of started in 2013. And I went through a process of like really generating some big financial income through selling supplements. Like, when I came here to Costa Rica, I had suitcases just full of supplements. I mean, of course I did. I was getting paid to sell them technically. And I did believe in them, and they were helping me in some way. They did kind of prepare me for the next wave that I was going to go through. Like, I was taking a lot of amino acid supplements and things like that. But eventually it was like, just like that, boom. All of a sudden I was like, I don't need any of this. Like, I am the thing. And then, you know, I was starting to get initiated more into the medicine. So I'm gonna share some of my funny stories about it. All right. So, I mean, first, let's go back to 2012, December 2012. It's the end of the Mayan cycle. I've talked about this on other calls before. It's like, whether you remember it or not, December 2012 was like a big shift for everyone on our planet. They were calling it the end of this Mayan cycle. I didn't know anything about these types of contexts back then. Like, I didn't know patterns of a moon cycle or full, like, I might have one day be like, oh, the moon is full today, you know, but I never really paid attention to the idea that, oh, it's a new moon and there's no moon in the sky, or there's a full moon and, you know, 14 days later, it's, you know, I wasn't into nature like that then. But anyways, January 2013, I start my very first 24-day challenge with the supplements that I ended up selling to people. And I lost, you know, I changed my eating patterns and all of that. And I was cutting out alcohol for 24 days. And I remember thinking, like, how am I going to do that? You know, I just gotten back from Sonoma, California, and my husband and I went on this wine tour, and we were like getting wine by the case and like drinking every night. And I was putting on some weight. And actually, this was the only time I was on pharmaceuticals. I'm going to share my personal experience with the pharmaceutical journey. It's like, now I can see how I was dabbling in all these things, so I could be like, okay, you know, so I could live to tell, you know. So it's like, I could have my own direct experience with it, so I could understand what's really going on in that world. And then I could, like, you know, do what I needed to do. So alcohol was one of those worlds for sure. And I enjoyed that, drinking on the weekends and even in the evenings with my red wines and shit like that. and I was putting on some weight, which happens naturally when you drink alcohol. Not to mention you wake up feeling like shit the next day. It's like my body was going, why am I doing that to myself? And then the next weekend comes, you do it again. And it's just like, I guess that's what happens when you're working all the time and you're living a life that's not true for you. And like, you know, it's like you just try to catch up on the fun on the weekend because you're like trapped in a cell from 9 to 5 through the weekdays. At least I was at that time. But yeah. Okay, now I'm going to go back just a little further, though, to my pharmaceutical journey. Because I talk shit about pharmaceuticals pretty hard. I know I do. And I try to be sensitive to the idea, like I'm so far removed from that world, kind of living to tell in the future, that some of the things I can say might generally be offensive to someone that's taking these things. And so I want to share where I'm coming from and my own experiences. And it wasn't so long ago. You know, there was a day while I was still working for Dell Computer Corporation that I was having chest pains in my heart and I didn't know what was going on. And so I remember I go to the doctor at Dell. Now, where I work out at Dell, it's in Round Rock, Texas, a little suburb outside of Austin, Texas. It's the headquarters of computers and tech. I started there in 2005. And we're just getting computers out, financing them at high interest rates. We actually built the financial crash of 2007 before we even knew what we were doing. I was definitely a part of that. Apple phones came out. It was like the tech boom. I was still on my old BlackBerry doing like triple dot texting, you know, to get the E or to get the letter, you know. It was like 1, 2, 3, you know. You're like, I was in resistance I always am actually kind of like in resistance to the new tech. And I think that's for a reason, you know. I knew how to put the brakes on and not get too caught up in the new flashy whatevers. So anyways, I started in 2005 at Dell Computer Corporation and start building this AI and tech world before I even know what I'm doing. I think I'm connecting the world and connecting grandmothers in foreign countries to their grandchildren and, you know, helping with healing cancer and all of that. I didn't realize that we'd be assisting in like exploding cancer, basically. And so everything is by divine purpose somehow, some way. I try not to demonize this plan and zoom out and see the bigger picture of it all. But now I'm going to go back. So I start working at Dell Computer Corporation, start building all this tech, start building the financial crash of 2007. I meet my husband there. You know, we meet each other, we fall in love. We're both from Florida. We're both kind of from the hood. We know the same music. We're like, you know, just like remembering having a reunion with each other. We get our chocolate lab, and then the next thing you know, we buy our house, and the next thing you know, I find out I'm pregnant with my first son, Lawson, Law Dog. He's turning 19. It's crazy for me to think I have a child a man, that I birthed a man on August 29th, 2007, my son, Lawson. And so anyways, you know, life is good. You're paying your mortgage and you're working every day and you're being a mom and you've got a dog and all of the things. And yeah, and then I have my second child, Presley James, January 2011. And I get to go to work part-time. So I'm spending more time with my children, but that's not so easy. It's like, it's really crazy when you think about it. I want to show you the sad programming of the separation of the children and their mother from a young age, because from the idea of this whole thing of feminism and like, you know, the workforce and all of the things, and Dell was so called like pride themselves in like, you know, workforce diversity and things like that, diversity of race and gender. You know, when I had my son and when I had my daughter, it was like I ended up unexpectedly having C-sections with both of them, something I also would have never expected. But the one benefit of having a C-section, the benefit was that I got more secure time off, unpaid, at my corporate job. And so, you know, if I had a vaginal birth, I would get 6 weeks off. So I just, you know, pop my kid out and then I go back to work in 6 weeks. But if I had a C-section, then I got 12 weeks of my job security and like a little more pay, but not much. And so, of course, like you just like birth this brand new child and your body's going through all of the phases of healing itself. I mean, especially with a major surgery where they literally just cut you completely open and take your whole body out and then put it all back together again. And that's when I realized, damn, our bodies are pretty powerful. I was very unconscious in this time. I couldn't see and understand what was going on. I was meant to be like undercover mother, fully immersed in this operation so that I could see all angles of it from some innocent, like, you know, just go with the flow and see where it takes you kind of thing. So, yeah, so both of my children, I had to deal with that like shock of you have this beautiful child and you're spending time with them and you're nursing them and they're growing. And then all of a sudden at 12 weeks, you've got to figure out like, where are they going to go to be, who's going to take care of them? You know, you're immediately separating from your child. Like they still don't even talk. Like next thing you know, I'm walking into work with my high heels on and my little business suit. I got a laptop on one arm. I've got a breast pump on the other, and I'm on calls all day, every day. I barely got time to eat or pump my milk for my child. And like, that's the reality of the United States of America. And that's called freedom and opportunity, they say. Yeah, talk about MK Ultra, talk about mind control. Who hasn't been mind controlled? We're all guilty. You know, so here I was building my American dream and like allowing someone else to raise my children basically, and already kind of separating from the children. And I never could quite trust the school systems or the daycare system. And I'm paying like $1,000 a month and stuff. Like I'm going to these high-end daycares and everything. And looking back now, it was all questionable. I'm pretty much questioning everything that has to do with gathering, collecting, and working with children. There is some questionable shit going on all levels with caretakers of children. That's not an easy pill to swallow, but it's real. So anyways, here's my journey. The whole point of all of this, I mean, there are many points here if you want to take them in. I'm just here to share my story, right? I'm not here to prove that one theory is the right theory. I'm not here to be your teacher. I'm just a living example of embodiment, of ascension, of my particular journey. This is undeniable. This is not to be defended. This is just my direct experience. And that is your living testimony, right? That's something that no one can take away from you. I do believe in tools and resources like the gene keys and things like that, but you know, I'm seeing this terminology of the false light and being thrown out and things like that. It's like, you can't deny your own direct experience and story and testimony, you know, your testimony. So I am here to testify. All right, so the next thing you know, I got these heart pains. I'm working in the corporate world. You know, I've got my kids being taken care of by some questionables. And Emerson Academy was one of the schools. And I'm just looking back at like, now that I have the eyes to see the truth of like what's been going on with these agendas, it's like I think about the people that were running these schools and I'm like, whoa, there was some shit going on, you know? And so I start having these chest pains and some different symptoms in my body. And I go to the nurse, I go to the doctor. And Dell was set up like almost like a college campus with many 3-story locations all in this one space. And they I mean, we had food service on each level. We had Starbucks on each level. It's like, get your coffee, get your food, get your doctor's appointment, get your flu shot. It's all right here for your convenience, you know? Oh, we're going to work you overtime and we'll bring you some Chick-fil-A sandwiches and some pizza, you know, and you're just like blowing up, boop, boop, making them money, you know, making moves. And, you know, tech billionaires, Jewish tech billionaires. That's what we got going on at Dell. I just saw that Michael Dell was on with Donald Trump the other day. So it's really, it hits close to home for me. For these trusts for children. So anyways, I go into the doctor. I'm like, doctor, I'm having this chest pain. And, you know, sometimes I'm a little stressed out. And she was like, oh, it's no problem. Now, I've never taken pharmaceuticals in my life, except on occasion I've had some antibiotics for like an earache or something like that. I've never taken what you might call a mind-altering substance. You know, I don't think I really understood what was going on here. She goes, oh, you work at Dell, it's no problem. Everybody here has these symptoms. Here, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm gonna give you a prescription for some Prozac and some Ativan. Now, I'd heard about Prozac. I'd heard it as like kind of a joke that like, oh, take your Prozac, you're getting crazy, like that kind of thing. And I was just like, but here I am, I'm like, in my mind, because I'm giving my power to this doctor, right? Because I think they're looking out for me. I don't realize the whole black market of like how everyone is incentivized to get these mind-controlled substances out, these addictive substances out. You know, I'm not realizing how much money these people are making and how many drugs they're on anyways, you know, and that they're just like passing this stuff around. So I just go home with my prescription and I tell my husband, I'm like, man, I didn't realize it'd be so easy to get something like this. I thought these things were much more regulated. And so I just, you know, wake up every morning and I start taking my pill. And, you know, if I'd ever get a little too irritated or feeling too much in my body, I would just take an Ativan. And there was no doubt. It was like, I was calm. I was calm and I was relaxed. And then one day I was watching American Idol. I used to watch that show. And especially the Carrie Underwood days. And I remember like a commercial came on and normally like I would get emotional and be touched and I would cry and like, you know, people achieving their dreams and their families cheering and like that stuff always like touched my heart. But all of a sudden I realized like I didn't have feelings anymore like that. I didn't have sentiment anymore. And I was like, oh my God, what is this doing to me? It's taking away my soul. I didn't have a lot of soul and spirit context yet. Like I didn't even know what I believed about reincarnation, or all I know is I'd grown up in some religion and it kind of like definitely left that behind, but there were still a lot of question marks and I was just too busy to even go there. It wasn't a part of the plan or my curiosities at that time, but I definitely noticed that I was feeling disconnected from my heart and my sentiment. And that's when I remember I was like going on a family walk with my husband and my 2 children at the time. And I was like, okay, I want to stop taking this. And so that's when it all started, January 2013. I did not, look, you get to do what you want, right? But I chose, wow. Holy shit, that was so beautiful. I hope you heard that as loud as I did. I mean, she just came right here to be like singing the song of celebration for freeing myself. Oof, so beautiful. So January 2013, I'm like, fuck it all. I'm going all in. 24-day challenge. I cut out processed food. I cut out processed sugar. I left behind pharmaceuticals, cut out the Prozac and the Ativan. and I cut out alcohol. And I was thinking, like, how am I going to not drink for 24 days? Like, I didn't feel like an alcoholic or anything like that, but I was just so used to it. It was like a regular part of my life, kind of like meat at the time. This was 2013 January. So that's, 13 years ago. A lot has happened in this cycle. Think about where you've come from in the last 13 years and what's been going on in your life. And so 24 days later, I was not so interested in alcohol anymore. I think we finished it off. I lost 13 pounds. I was feeling great energy. I cut out coffee, cut out the sugar. And then we were going on a little family trip to Florida to see our friends. And I, jumped back into the Italian foods and the wines and things like that. But I immediately could feel the difference. It was like I went 24 days without something. So then when I reintroduced it, I could actually feel what it was actually doing to me. But before, I was so adapted to it and I was so numb to it that I didn't really realize the heaviness, the tiredness, the lack of energy that I was getting from this food and alcohol. Right? So that was a big awakening for me. And, I cut out all of the pharmaceuticals that were keeping me numb and keeping me a little comatose, and definitely brought some patience in my life for my children and things like that. And so all of a sudden now I was cutting that out and I could feel that little irritated edge coming back. And eventually, I started having a little puff of ganja every once in a while. My friend Jeremy had come over and he'd had a little bit, and it's not something like, here I am in my adult days. Like, I'd experimented with it in middle school a little bit, but I was way too paranoid and I never really felt good. But at this moment in time, it was like a good calm and relax myself thing. And it was just like literally a little bit of a puff in my garage every once in a while. And the interesting thing about it, which I've always felt like embarrassed to say out loud, was that I noticed like it got me into the present moment. Now, I would say that whatever is in cannabis these days is different than those days. I really feel that. But like, I'm pretty concerned with what's being passed around in anything anymore. But the point is, yeah, it was bringing me into a presence. It was making me a better mother. It was bringing me into a more calm and relaxed state. I wasn't using it to just like disappear and go off somewhere and just sit on the couch and do nothing. I was tuning in. I was tuning into myself. I was feeling myself. I was feeling my children. I was ready to get down on the floor and play with them. And yeah, it was a helpful medicine for me. Really. Clean cannabis was a helpful medicine for me. And it's taken me a long time to admit that, because I've had such like this judgment. The war on drugs has kind of done that, and my own judgments about the idea of drugs and drug addiction and all of that. And that's probably another reason why it's like, I also don't want to be a proponent in like people doing drugs. And so, but this is my personal experience and my personal journey. And so all of that leads me to eventually, that's 2013. Now I'm going to fast forward to 2016. I've been building my business. I've been raising my children. I'd left my corporate job. My husband and I are now like at home, full-time parents, totally present with our children. We're the ones volunteering at the school, participating in everything, going on every field trip, winning trips, traveling, all of the things, just really enjoying life. And at the time, we had achieved this level of leadership in our company called the Emerald Elite. And it's interesting because now I like think about the Emerald Order and how it's like a different version of Emerald, but yeah, the Emerald Elite. And yeah, it was a really beautiful time. and lifting heavy weights, crushing it, feeling great with the energy, taking care of my body, eating healthy, motivating others. Like, I'm on constant calls with people, just inspiring them to make changes in their life and to make changes in their diet. And like, I still should be doing that, actually. If you're fucking ready, call me. I'm here for that. Like, I can talk about all these mystical, like, star things and stuff like that, but I'm quite diverse in my direct experiences. And yeah, I believe so much. I'm very passionate about inspiring you to make changes for yourself and to be the one to do it, you know, and to not really put anyone else in that authority position. And that's why I was successful at that last business. I was this emerald thing, this emerald elite. It was about empowering people, not making money off people. That was never my motivation, making money. It was about serving. I love to serve. I love to inspire. I love to raise people up. I love to help people remember their power and their abilities. And like, you got to make the change, you know, it's in that time, in that setting in your house that you decide not to take that pill, or you decide not to eat that food, or you decide not to drink that beer, like, or whatever it is. You decide not to click on that pornography. You decide. You're the one, you know? We're just here as examples and encouragers and empowering you as mirror reflections of, we're here to help you rise. We want all the people to rise. Open your eyes and rise. And so anyways, some would say it's dangerous. I did not go back to my doctor and be like, I want to get off these, so that they could put me on like a plan. And so I do want to be sensitive that we all have different situations in our life. We all have different mental stability and different living circumstances. And so you need to do what's right for you. But I am telling you that if you have anything inside you that feels like, I want to end something, I want to finish something, I want to get off something, remember, you have the power to do it, because you do. I believe in you, and you have to believe in yourself. And that is the real next step, and the most important step in your own self-healing. Is it's not a pill, it's not a doctor, it's not a system, it's not a healer, it's you. You know, and I've probably left thousands of dollars on the table, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table by not selling this truth. You know, and it's like, it's tricky when money's involved to not question the ulterior motives of people. And that the motivation is truly about the healing of somebody and the empowering and the encouraging of someone, versus needing to be the healer or wanting to make money off of somebody else's suffering. So I come from that place of operating only by cosmic donation, which is not easy. And I've had a million people tell me, you got to go make money, you got to sell your services, you got to. And it's like, you could call it a stubbornness, but I'm like, I believe there's another way. I believe there's another way to support the ones that are here with this type of mission and this type of like this type of information, that are not motivated by making money, but are truly motivated by seeing the world change, by seeing people rise, by seeing people like, I have more of a collective vision for how money will work in the future. I mean, also, I just believe it's going to end, but it's a step-by-step process. But that ultimately we start opening up into more collective fields of consciousness. And when we know, like, we can run around being like, everything is one and it's all unity. And it's like, well, the bank accounts aren't like that yet. You know, so there's still some things to awaken to here. And I've been persistent on this mission and the perseverance. It's written in my gene keys, you know, the 29 and the 38 are both connected to perseverance and persistence, and understanding that it's deeper, it's bigger, wait for it, be patient, keep persevering. You've got a vision, you can see something, don't sell out. The 16 talks about not being sold, not selling out, you know. It's bigger, it's more collective. It's not I, me, my, it's for the whole. Keep holding the field, spreading the word, speaking the vision, inviting the idea of more generosity on all levels. Give of what you can. I give of my knowledge, my wisdom, my passion, my encouragement. If you have money to give money. If you've got fruits to give fruits. If you've got, keep giving. How do we keep it going? How do we keep giving in the different levels of currency? How do we start to expand our idea of what free energy actually looks like? Philanthropy unlocks free energy. And I'm not talking about fake philanthropy. I'm talking about true unconditional giving. Unconditional giving. If you're giving with a condition, it's fake. It's fake giving. Unconditional giving is a whole nother stream and beam. It is an ecstatic beam. Because you recognize that when you unconditionally give, you will always receive. You don't know when, and you don't know how, and you don't know from who. Like, I'm going to give to the person that comes into the gate, you know, that enters the gate of curiosity or asking, right? And I may or may not receive something directly from them, but then something else comes around. And this is how things start to circulate. You could even say circular economies or sacred economics or things like that. You know, it's something bigger, something bigger, something bigger. Don't forget, it's written in the codes. There's a prophecy about this. We're not here to prostitute and monetize ourselves forever. I speak from the future. Okay, so the Santa Maria helped me. That was kind of the story I was getting at. And then I was getting to, yes. Your tiara?
The big tiaras.
The big tiara.
No, the big tiaras.
Oh, the scissors. Oh, I have to learn. Sometimes I have to remember my Spanish. I'm right here, guys. I'm still talking. I'm just getting some scissors for my daughter. There you go.
Big one.
I don't have, these are the only ones I have, so the other ones must be somewhere else that you left them. This is my Master Atlantis crystal, by the way. Came from Arkansas. One of many that I received around my birthday, November 18th, a few years ago, at the same exact time. I can't find the original video, and if anybody knows how to find it, there was something in the Guardian Alliance teachings. It was connected to the Cristo spiral and the Fibonacci spiral, and it was showing like how they intersected at the November 18th, I think it was 2023, but it could be 2022. It's a little challenging. But anyways, I remember I just given like most of my crystals away. We always do. Like, we get so many gifts and crystals and things like that. And then, you know, we just pass things around. We spread the love. We give of what we have, because these to me are real technology and real computers. And I remember at the time I told my little friend Lev, he's a galactic warrior. I was like, you know, we just keep giving of whatever we have, and we always have enough, and everything that we need arrives exactly when we need it. And literally that morning, I think I'd given him or his sister like a big crystal. And then the next day, my friend arrives, Blue Star, and he has this bowling bag of crystals. He just landed from Arkansas, which I call the headquarters of Atlantis in another time. And literally there are crystals in there like this size, from this woman named Karen, who had found me online and had been following me back in the day. And I mean, tons of them, and probably 50 pounds of crystals. And so we knew we couldn't keep all of these forever. And now Lev is seeing the truth of what I'm saying. I'm like, we just keep giving, and we always have enough, and whatever we need shows up at the right time. Haven't had a bag of money show up yet, and you can't buy foods with crystals yet, but we're working on it. We are building the new templates. We have been faithfully on the front lines of this mission, building the new templates of the real new earth. You know, I have a funny story to tell you, if I remember it, about Atlantis and the Austin airport, and like they wouldn't take my money. I had this like paper cash, and they were like, oh, we don't take paper cash. here. I wanted to get this vegan raw burrito, so good. Oh, I used to love this place in Austin. What was it called? They had such good smoothies and this good vegan like burrito with this hot sauce. Anyways, I went to go pay for it and I couldn't because they wouldn't take my paper and they only took cards, but I don't have cards anymore. I don't have a bank account and I don't have a card. And so this guy, he was like, oh, don't worry, I'll get it for you. He's like, I just came back from Vegas and got a bunch of money and they wouldn't give it to me either or something like that. But he had a card. He had a fake plastic card and he went and paid for it and he bought my thing. And I pull a crystal out of my bag, a golden healer crystal. Now, the problem was it wasn't my crystal. So I got in trouble for that. I had to pay back with a different crystal, a beautiful blue, like cerulean blue Andara crystal. But I pull out this golden healer and I'm just like, oh, thank you for getting me this burrito. And I give him a crystal. And I was like, this is the return of Atlantis. And it was really crazy because that day in the airport, there were like signs everywhere. There were spaceships and there were signs and they even like had pretend fake flights to Atlantis and like different locations. It felt really, this was in 2023 April. The last time actually I was on an airplane. Yeah, I said, this is a return of Atlantis. But I saw what was starting to happen with the digital money and monetary currencies. And it was the first day that they had created the facial recognition to get on a plane where you didn't need to use your passport, that they could just use the computer and read your face. And then you could get on the airplane. Like, already went through the security, but this was about getting on the plane. And I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on here on this planet? Everything's going digital, facial recognition, AI, this and that. And at that time, I had 30 days left on my passport. And I was like, I didn't even know if they were gonna let me in Costa Rica because it takes usually you have to have at least 90 days. I arrive and I'm like, let's see what happens. And they let me in. And from that point on, I'm certain it wouldn't happen like that these days. That was a few years back. Things have gotten a whole lot more ramped up in the security department. And dodge the hijack. If you're still falling for the idea that security is here to protect you versus surveillance and watch you, first of all, if you think that you're not being watched and that everything about you isn't known through AI and tech, like, I try to tell people all the time, I was like, you better live a fucking transparent life. You think there's any secrets out there? They know everything about you. They know your pornography addictions. They know your drug addictions. They know when you zoom in on a picture and look at an ass. They know everything about you. They know all your little secret accounts. They know how much money you have. They know what stresses you out. They know what you're attracted to, your little fetishes and fantasies. Like, let's get real about it. This thing is in there on all levels. Look, I'm saying this with a smile. There's no fear in me. This is just the reality. You know why there's no fear in me? Because I live totally transparent. I'm not hiding out here. I'm speaking loud and clear on these technology devices because I realize that's the final countdown, because for a while I did totally leave technology behind and pretty much just like live in nature. And I realized there's still a whole world out there and there is a narrative or an agenda going on right now. And it's to whom much is given, much is required. And if you do have wisdom and knowledge that you carry, it's time to bring it out, and time to connect with the people. And so that's what's up with that. This is a little bit about my galactic adventure journey that has moved very fast since I stopped drinking alcohol, since I stopped taking pharmaceuticals, and jumped down into the rabbit hole, you might say. And so I had a near-death experience in 2016 that was a big part of the initiation, which eventually led me to almost a full dematerialization that brought me to Costa Rica in the first place in 2018. So I'm hopping around and bringing you through a lot of different timelines. And there's important information to gather in what I'm talking about here as a guardian from the future, about what we're seeing out there, what's going on with the currencies, what's going on with the digital, how the people are being controlled with the pharmaceuticals, with the alcohol, with the food, with the money. You know, it's addiction all around. And it's so unconscious, you know, you don't know until you know. And then once you know and you can see a little better, then you move through that firmament, you move through that veil, you move through that denial, and you can see the bigger picture. And you can start doing what's right for you. You got to get right. You got to get correct. You know, and we've got to get the guardians together, because we're holding the vision and the plan and the future for preserving a nation, for preserving a human race. And sometimes it's so interesting, you know, in the conscious world, and when we get into the psychology of things and the rights and the wrongs and the lights and the darks and the non-dualities, it's like, you know, they'll try to bully anybody that feels like they're here to save a planet, or, you know, here to save the world in some way. Like it's just a part of the ego. I guess you could call it that. For me, it's like an eternal memory as a guardian. You know, it's as an architect, a starchitect. You know, that is there are many games, there are many programs, there are many files out there that we can access. And so you get to choose which character you want to play here. You know, if it's an oppressed character of slavery and stress and illness and fear, you know, versus a guardian here to be in service to humanity. You get to pick your favorite character and play that out. And why wouldn't you want to be a main character in your play? You're making a movie. It's your movie. But it's not in Hollywood. It's not on the cameras. It's not for necessarily being seen or followed. So yeah, the story that feels the most resonant to me at this moment in time is a guardian on a mission, on a planetary mission. It's very Star Wars like. It's very Return of the Goddess, Return of the Mother, Return of the Holiness, protect what is sacred, protect our children. It's very Dragon Defender, protect a planet, protect our children, protect our children. Protect the future, protect the innocence. The dragons come down because something's gone wrong, something fucked up has been happening on our planet. With our children. Their innocence is being raped of them and has been for generations, and this is not acceptable. The fall of Atlantis is all about this. And that's why I say we're here to rewrite the fall of Atlantis. Rewrite it all before the fall. Reverse the curse like we rehearsed. That's why we came down here. So somehow I got here 1 hour and 4 minutes in, because I started talking about the book called The Surrender Experiment by Dr. Michael Singer. And I started listening to that book a little after my near-death experience in Austin. And I'd already sold my big house and was living in a much more simpler, smaller house, and just like starting to minimize my life so I wasn't like so intertwined with the government and taxes. Like just my house alone was $10,000 a year in taxes. You know, just my healthcare alone was over $12,000. Like just my taxes and my healthcare were like probably around $24,000 a year, just that. That doesn't include, you know, the cost of life and cars and food and all of the material things you think you need when there's material all around you for sale. And so, yeah, I was starting to downsize, simplify, and like get out of that grind on all levels. Minimize my external output, money, monetary stuff, you know, like the chains of debt and all of those things. And so when I listened to this book called Surrender Experiment, and Michael Singer, he's like kind of he's in his maybe 60s now or something like that, but he's talking about taking magic mushrooms. Like he went to Gainesville University, or there was an ashram or something, and he's like taking psilocybin mushrooms. Hey, River, that's a little loud for me. River. Thank you, baby. Maybe on the other side. Okay, so I hear Michael Singer, and he's talking about taking psilocybin mushrooms by the river or by the lake or something in Gainesville, Florida. And that's the first time I'm like hearing of this idea. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe someone's like openly talking about taking drugs. And then I remember right around that same time, Aubrey Marcus was coming into my field. So this was like 2017, maybe 2018, 2017, 2018. And at the time, I don't know that he has a podcast, but he's talking about this book about ayahuasca. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe these people are talking openly about drugs online. Not even afraid they're gonna get in trouble. Like, yeah, that was how innocent I was. Like, even when I was starting to smoke a little Santa Maria and it was helping me out after I left behind the pharmaceuticals, I didn't tell anyone because it was illegal and it's a drug. And I didn't want anybody to know that I'd taken this drug, even though it's like pharmaceuticals, totally legal, sugar, totally fine, totally acceptable, you know? Alcohol, totally fine, totally acceptable. You can drink 10 beers and take a bunch of shots, it's totally fine. Take a little puff of an herb, it's not okay, right? It's a drug. So that was like, that just gives you like a idea of the innocence that I had, that I didn't want anybody to know that I'd been smoking a little herb. And I started to come out of my shell eventually. So anyways, we arrive here in Costa Rica in 2018, and I meet some people. We're living in a conscious community. It's actually on Netflix. It was called Down. Okay, so we get here. I'm questioning everything about the agenda of Netflix, by the way, with New World Orders and all of the things. It's just kind of funny, but you know, you don't know at the beginning. So here I am, me and my husband and children, 3 children. We come to Costa Rica for 2 months to immerse ourselves in the culture. And we end up finding this place, this eco-village community. It's like, I saw it on an Airbnb, and I started having dreams and visions about it, about the idea of like doing meditations on this yoga deck. And it looks so beautiful. And it had a big pool, and we were gonna go there. So we were gonna go there for a month. And we get there, and this dude comes up to me. He's like, you know, middle-aged dude with kids at home. And he's like, hey, have you ever taken MDMA or mushrooms? And I was like, what's MDMA? And he was like, ecstasy. And I was like, no, I haven't taken that, you know? And I just remember I went to my husband and I was like, we got to get the fuck out of here. These people are on drugs. And the reason I got here at this point of the story is, number one, because of Michael Singer, and he was talking about taking mushrooms in the book, you know, and then Aubrey Marcus is talking about ayahuasca. Like, all of this stuff's just starting to pop into my frequency, into my wavelength for the very first time. And I'm like, what is all this, you know? And then, and now all of a sudden MDMA, ecstasy, right? And so earlier I was talking about this dude named Samuel Lee. And I guess the story is, you know, he had someone come to see him at a wellness thing to do a ceremony with him for $2,000. And it was a heart opening ceremony. And I guess they were taking MDMA, ketamine, and DMT stacked, which I don't know why the fuck anybody would need to do that, but whatever. I mean, now I understand there's all these people running around with their little boutique mixes that nobody knows what they are. And they're just like, you know, having these experiences, basically for the most part, inviting demons in, especially with ketamine, absolutely not. And this woman ended up dying. And so she was in, it was the day later, it was in the infrared sauna. Now, if you've ever taken MDMA, so like, you know, getting to the part from moving away from the idea, let's get the hell out of here, these people are on drugs. I have experienced this drug. And it's a sauna all in its own. Like, I can't imagine going to a sauna after you take that medicine. But, you know, unfortunately, someone had to lose their life. I also do believe in the mathematics of this universe that we predetermine these factors. That's not always easy for people to understand or to believe at this moment in time. But once you do understand that there is more of a cosmic design and a mathematics to this reality of when you arrive to the minute, to the date, it was always going to be that date and time, no matter what. And the same with the death process, the leaving process, or for me, the near-death process, which was what I would say is my final incarnation, was a predetermined. I mean, here I am shaking on the table, dying, and going, oh, I'm dying, and I'm releasing my identity, you know, and then hours later, I'm awake with my body, and I'm just on a journey to start to learn to put words to, you know, live to tell what it means to die and be reborn. I was 33 years old when that happened, which is the final revelation. It's been opening up the gates of consciousness and the mysteries of this reality ever since then, and really having to like identify and let go of like massive amounts of limitations about what I've been taught about the history of us as humans and the universe. And yeah, and really having to push through the idea of what is considered crazy or not. As I understand, I'm considered crazy to some people, although I feel very sane. I mean, I think being sick, going to hospitals, paying bills, being stressed out, giving our children over to doctors, getting them vaccinated, putting them in schools full of transhuman agenda, pedophile agenda, getting controlled by AI technology, like, I think that's crazy, right? So pick your crazy. You know, we're all a little crazy, I guess you could say. I don't know if I'm just speaking to myself. Sometimes I have people pop in with some little messages, but I haven't seen any activity, so I might be having a little monologue with myself. But, all right, so I'm bringing it all in because of this whole Samuel Lee thing and the drugs and the woman died and all of the things, you know. And I thought that I would just start to share a little bit about my personal experiences with drugs, you know, just to be honest about it. And I can feel the hesitance in me, like, oh, if I talk about this, I could be in trouble, or I will be seen as a person that takes drugs, or all of these things. It's like, the government made them all anyways. They're passing them around, and then they're deciding which ones are legal or not. And then all of these mind control experiments have actually been with substances like LSD, like ecstasy, mushrooms, all of it. And now they're bringing it to the pharmaceutical level. And all of a sudden the government is the authority on psychedelics. And now all of a sudden, like, they're coming through these big authorized programs. It's very interesting who gets to be authorized in serving medicine or taking medicine or not. There are a lot of different stances on this. There are a lot of gray areas about all of these ideas. You know, what is good or bad or right or wrong or fallen or light or demons and portals. And yeah, I'm just wanting to come out of the closet and talk about my own direct experiences, because I get it. It's a gray area, you know, it's a very taboo area. There was a time in my life where I judged the fuck out of the idea of anyone taking a drug. And I'd seen, you know, people. Oh, hi, Heather. I had an experience dematerialized age 38. I didn't die, but came back in a form, and that was my perception. Beautiful. 38, the warrior of light. I always say whatever age you are is your theme for the year in the gene keys, you know? And I think in numbers. So like, I'm 43. And how did I die? I'll tell y'all how I died in a minute. I was 43 years old, or I am 43 years old. So I'm in gene key 43 right now, which is the epiphany and the insights, which is also my pearl. And it's also the gateway to the causal plane, the breakthrough sphere. I died delivering my third child. It was a planned C-section. It was on the birthday of Dr. Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer had just died 9 months before, if anybody knows who Wayne Dyer is. He had died 9 months before, and then literally I found out I was pregnant. And May 10th, 2016, I'm going in for my routine C-section, the third one I'd had. Very human in my perception. I was just starting to explore spirituality and like opening up a little more to kind of the Wayne Dyer level of the worlds. He was bringing a lot of beautiful information for me. And so here he was, all of a sudden, he was in Hawaii. He had died on August 29th in his sleep, they say, or August 28th, no one knows, but on that cusp. And that was my oldest son's birthday. And he had come to Austin, and I almost went to see him, and then I didn't. Oh, it's your birthday? Happy birthday. It's my friend's birthday, in the Canary Islands, I think. I can't remember. So your theme, since today is your human birthday, is 220 crystal sun, which is the enlightenment. And actually your daughter's galactic birthday is in 2 days, because I remember decoding your daughter's galactic birthday, Heather, 222 magnetic wind. So going back to my near death, you know, I'm going in for a major surgery. I've been CrossFitting my whole pregnancy. I was super in shape, super energized, super healthy on all levels. And my husband's waiting outside to come to the room. And she gives me the meds. Now, I want to tell you, before this happened, I 100% believed in the medical establishments. And I believed in vaccines, and I believed in circumcision, all of which now I call satanic ritual abuse. And I believe that the whole medical operating system is gray alien agenda. And that's why I say dodge the hijack. We are the cosmic disclosure. We are here to bring the truth of the multidimensionality and the eternal nature of this reality. And the entire medical system has been an experimentation on an entire human race, where they've done nothing but cut, mutilate, kill, steal people's organs, misdiagnose children with cancers so they could experiment on them and take their stem cells. Stem cells, where are those coming from? All of a sudden, that's a real popular topic. So here I am laying on the table, believing in the medical establishment, not really realizing I'm going in for an alien abduction, consenting to it and paying thousands of dollars for it. And I start having a terrible headache and massive nausea. They'd already given me the huge like spinal tap or whatever it is in my back to numb my entire body so I could be completely numb while I'm going through the most sacred event of my life. So a lot of this, if you put it all together, is the story of like the disconnection of a mother having a child and going right back to work, and the mother being disconnected from her body in the most sacred event of her life as a child is being born. And so here I am on all these drugs, and I'm having this headache and I'm feeling sick, and I'm a little bit of a warrior. Like I have a high tolerance to pain, and I'm persisting through the pain as much as I can until finally I'm like, okay, I actually need to say something. This is really bad. And so I tell the woman, the anesthesia woman, hey, I'm feeling pretty bad right now. I've got terrible, alien abductions in hospitals. Isn't that crazy? Think about it. All right. I had this revelation one time and I was like, everyone's talking about, like, there's all this stuff coming out about Elizabeth April. I remember when I was awakening and I started watching her and she was talking about being abducted by Grace, like it was cool. And I was like for a minute, as I started to watch this type of stuff, I was like, I didn't get abducted by Grace. Like I'm expecting that I'm going to get like pulled up. And exactly, Heather, your daughter has been abducted for 5 months in the mental health. Like, I don't want to get too in your story, but exactly when you put it in perspective like that, you can now see what's really going on here and how many are unconsciously accomplices, mind controlled into participating in an experiment. And see, we're looking for gray aliens out there, like these creepy little whatevers. And it's like, no, we're all here. We're all multidimensional, and we're all operating in a certain level of DNA, either consciously or unconsciously on this earth plane. I'm not waiting for someone to tell me their story about how they got taken up in a UFO to be abducted. Every time we go into a hospital, they're ready for you with the scalpel and the fluorescent lights. Things are not as they seem. It's not so far out there. And see, when you have the idea that it's out there, or that you're going to get taken up in a ship, you don't realize it's happening right, like to you right here, right now. And I always say, in the hospital system, it's like, it's like this, okay? If you go to a realtor, they're going to sell you a house. If you go to a car salesman, they're going to sell you a car. They're going to try. And if you go to a doctor or a hospital, they're going to sell you a disease. That's it. It's that easy. It's super obvious. It changes your whole perspective when you think about what's really going on in the medical industry. When I started to see it like this, I couldn't unsee it. And I mean, of course, it's going to be offensive in a lot of ways for people like, wait a minute, and you'll defend it and all of the things. And then it's like, it's all about harvesting. They're harvesting your plasma. They're harvesting your blood. They're harvesting your stem cells. Talk about adrenochrome. Like, where's it coming from? When people talk about trafficking children, it's like, go look in the children's hospitals. They're trafficking the children there. I believe that children are being misdiagnosed with diseases they don't have. I saw it in my neighborhood. This sweet kid was perfectly fine, and then he fell out of a tree and hit his head. So he went to get checked up at the children's hospital, Dell Children's Hospital. Michael Dell, billionaire biotech guy, Jewish billionaire. The next thing you know, Brock goes from totally fine, just fell from a tree, going to make sure he's all right, to he's got a rare form of cancer and he's dead in 6 or 8 weeks. And you're like, whoa, what's really going on here? This is the real disclosure that we're waking up to, the negative alien agenda that we've all been a part of, that we've maybe been victim to, that we've maybe even been an accomplice to, that we've been operating, the AI agendas, the medical agendas, we've all been a part of it. This is the real disclosure. And so, you know, eventually my near-death experience is I'm vibrating on the table and I tell the women, hey, I'm not feeling so good. So she gives me, she literally says, so she gives me some medicine to try to help. I guess medically my blood pressure was very low. I also think they were trying to kill me, but they couldn't because I'm an immortal. But she gives me the medicine to bring my blood pressure up, and I guess it doesn't work at the time. There must have been a delay. And she goes, how are you feeling now? And I'm like, no, it's still pretty strong. I'm feeling so nauseous and this terrible headache. And she says, I don't know what it is about this last batch of meds. Like basically insinuating that this particular batch of meds had also not worked very well, you know? And so here she is, she's about to give me another dose. And the next thing you know, I'm in full fucking seizures, but I'm consciously aware of it. My body is like vibrating and flapping around like a fish out of water, you know? And I'm like, it's like she doesn't even notice or something. I think she's on her cell phone or something. And I'm going like, is this normal? You know? And I'm trying to like get her attention. And the next thing you know, she's screaming, oh my God, get that baby out of here. Call Troy. And I'm hearing the red lights. I'm hearing the sirens. My husband's not in the room, which is strange because normally they would let him in. That's why I'm like, was this really happening? Like, did they plan this or was this really just an accident? Like, I always see that there's a bigger picture in everything. I never have had hard feelings about any of it. But I'll tell you, I was never the same again. And so the next thing you know, the anesthesia, this is all connected to anesthesia, which is very interesting because I've just recently watched some videos with this one dude who's talking about like with anesthesia, they actually really don't even know how it works and where you go. They just know that somehow they put something in your body and you literally lay there relaxed while your body's being completely mutilated. It's like, okay, what is anesthesia, you know? What is amnesia? What is anesthesia? What is Anastasia? Fantasia. So yeah, it is, when you think about it, oh, you could literally take this medicine and all of a sudden you could be totally fine with the idea that someone's cutting out your heart and putting another heart in, you know, or that someone's cutting a child out of your body, because that's what's really happening with the C-section, right? You cut through all the layers of the muscular tissue, of the abdominal muscles, and you're literally, you know, taking out all of the digestive and the organ type of shit to pull a baby out of your body. And then you got to put it all back in there and push it all down. Like I remember like the doctor like pushing it all, not in this, I didn't remember in this one, but I remembered in one of the other ones. So let's go back to this one. This is my third child I'm delivering. I'm a pro at this point of getting cut open and somehow surviving and living to tell. You know, so she's yelling, call Troy, which is the main anesthesia guy. He comes in, they throw a towel over my face like I'm dead and gone. And I understand, I think that my blood pressure must have been so high that they thought like I'm a goner. Or again, they had this all planned. I just still can't figure that part out yet. And they intubate me. You know, they throw a tube inside of me to keep me alive so that my child is born, you know, alive. And at that moment, I was like, okay, I think I'm dying and I'm going to leave my 3 children to my husband. And eventually, like, everything just fades away. And yeah, I didn't have this whole idea of like seeing my body or like meeting anything. It was just like collapsed, you know, like it all just disappeared. And so maybe medically also they put me in an unconscious state. I'm not sure medically what happened. I'd love to, now that I know what I know about things, I'd like to get down in there and see what was really happening on paper in my medical records, if they even saved that shit. Because this really should have been a medical malpractice on all levels. But So eventually I wake up in a time lapse, maybe hours later, and I'm in a MRI type of machine, and I can hear them talking about getting me to the I don't know, that critical care department or something like that. And then all of a sudden they're like, I guess they're waiting for a scan of my brain. And they're like, she's fine. She's totally fine, or something like that. And so they pull me out of the tube, the MRI, and I'm like aware, I'm awake, I'm observing everyone. I still have this intubated tube in my throat, and I've got tears coming out of my eyes, like, oh my God, I'm alive. And I can't speak yet, you know. The anesthesia woman runs up to me and she's like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And eventually they take the tube out and I'm like, did I have a baby? Is it a boy or a girl? Because we never decided, we didn't want to know if is it a boy or a girl. And it's a boy, and we name him Dyer after Wayne Dyer because he was born on Wayne Dyer's birthday, whose galactic kin is coming up in 2 days. The same as your daughter's galactic kin, Heather. You see how synchronicity works like that? And so, I mean, I recovered perfectly fine, like nothing ever happened. I didn't really tell anybody what happened. I mean, all of my friends were like waiting to hear the story. Is the baby here? They knew I was going in for a scheduled C-section. I had quite a following with the business that I ran, and all of a sudden everyone's like, TikTok, TikTok. You know, I think maybe around 6 or 7 o'clock, my children's father, my husband at the time, finally posted the birth announcement, because everyone was like wondering, like they knew I was going in at like X amount, like let's say 8 in the morning, 10 in the morning, but like it doesn't take that long. And everyone's wondering like, what's up with Alicia? Did she have a baby or not? Because of the sensitivity of the situation, I didn't want to tell anyone, because they could be pregnant or they could be having a baby, and I didn't want to put that fear in them that like something like that could happen to them. And also maybe I was probably in a state of shock, but I didn't really realize it. The only emotion I really processed was eventually post all of it happening, because also like you have a newborn child in your arms and you're just so in bliss and love with that. And you're like, you know, it like overrides the bliss of that new birth, overrides what just happened. And also it was a rebirth, 33-year-old rebirth. I didn't know about reincarnation and all of that stuff so much yet, but looking back, like I understand I was a new incarnation in the same body. And I was here to then adjust that configuration to the current reality that I was in. And somehow I'm here to bring this understanding in a grounded way, because oftentimes I understand it looks like I just went crazy. And crazy is a word you use to call stuff when you don't know what's really going on, you know? And so, yeah, that's my NDE story, near-death experience story. And it would be like, I never have followed too many people's near-death experiences. I know there's been books and stuff out there and a lot of doctors that talk about this, and I probably should get a little more involved in those types of things, because I'm sure my story would be helpful, like many others, in what happens in the near-death experience realm. And also the idea of walk-ins and walk-in integration, and the idea of bringing a cosmic essence, the cosmic source of yourself or your eternal nature, down into the body. Incarnating, like a final incarnation, is the way that I see this. And so, yeah, I don't think I really told my story until about a year later. When Dyer turned 1 year old, I wrote a post, maybe like a blog post. I wish I could remember that blog blog name, because I'd like to go back and reread that post. Yeah. It was titled, "You Don't Have to Die to Live." You don't have to die to live. And yeah, when I came out about what really happened, so many people were just like so emotionally shocked by the story. They couldn't believe it. And I can't believe I kept it so quiet for so long. But yeah, the real emotional part was for me and the compassion of what my husband must have felt like to watch me go through that. You know, he never got to come into the room. They moved him back to the back and told him that, like, he just thought the surgery was postponed for longer or something. And then the next thing you know, the doctor came to him and they're like, "Well, did you have a boy or a girl?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Oh, it's a boy." You know, he had no idea that any of that had happened. So I'm glad he wasn't there, but also even that was kind of strange that he wasn't like in the room, because in all the past ones he was. So anyways, that's a little bit of my story, and now I'm going to jump back to the drugs, the other drugs besides all the ones that the hospital gives you. But I will say, after all that happened, I started to have some X-ray vision about this reality. And I did vaccinate my son, and I did circumcise him, and I would absolutely never do that again. And I've had to deal with a guilt for that, seeing and knowing what I know now, and being compassionate with myself that I was completely unconscious to what was really going on there. And so I have compassion for anyone else. Forgive us all, for we know not what we do. But in Revelations 12, I've talked about this on one of my previous things about Revelations 12. And the woman and the dragon, they say she'll have the child and they will devour it. And that's what I mean by this transhuman agenda. Let's check this out, transhumanism. Transhumanism is an international, this is from the Ascension Glossary, is an international cultural and intellectual movement with an eventual goal of fundamentally transforming the human condition by making available technologies that greatly enhance human intellectual, physical, and psychological capacities. Many transhumanists believe in the compatibility between the human mind and computer hardware. We're talking about these implants and chips, with the implication that human consciousness can be transferred to alternative media known as mind uploading. Since the science of the soul and the consciousness functions of the spiritual bodies have not yet been discovered by scientists, this is potentially extremely destructive consequences to human consciousness and the electromagnetic functions of the light body. Post-humans, the result of applied transhumanist technology, that would be like getting an implant or a chip, could be completely synthetic artificial intelligences, or a symbiosis of human and artificial intelligence, or uploaded consciousness, or the result of making profound technological augmentation to a biological human. Transhumanism is a school of thought that seeks to guide us towards a post-human condition. Essentially, this is about creating artificially intelligent hybrids or cyborgs to replace the organic spiritual consciousness of humans. Some examples are redesigning the human organism using advanced nanotechnology or radical technological enhancements. Some of the proposed biological enhancements are using some combination of technologies such as genetic engineering, psychopharmacology, life extension therapies, neural interfaces, brain mapping, wearable or implanted computers, and entrainment of cognitive techniques. Most of these options are designed to disconnect the human soul from the human body and prepare the body to be used as a shell for a new host. Effectively, this is integrating technological and pharmaceutical hybridization to damage human DNA as preparation for body snatching. You know, I met this doctor one time. His name was Dr. Black anyways. And there's also a doctor named Dr. Gray. It's like Gray's Anatomy. Listen, the book is called Gray's Anatomy. Like, just look for it. Everyone's waiting for the UFO information to come out about Roswell and the gray aliens. And I'm like, Gray's Anatomy. Nipping and tucking. Nipping and tucking and fucking. Like, that's what's been going on in this reality. Experimenting on the human race and the body forever. The fundamental basis of the transhuman concept is the AI downloaded into the specific human mind with the negative aliens and satanic forces in their quest to survive and achieve immortality by hijacking human consciousness and ultimately possessing the human host body. They do not have flesh and bone bodies, and they covet ours. Most academics are filled with a variety of mind control and alien implants to be a cog in the wheel to steadily enforce alien control systems. See, dodge the hijack. It's all here, and it's been here the whole time. Most early transhumanism concepts were developed by geneticists interested in eugenics and sustaining life forms in synthetic environments, like the eugenic experiments similar to those of the Black Sun Nazis. A common feature of promoting transhumanism is the future vision of creating a new intelligent species into which humanity will evolve and eventually either supplement it or supersede it. This distraction on the surface is a scheme, while the underlying motivation is intending species extinction of what we know as humans today. Transhumanism stresses the evolutionary perspective, yet it completely ignores the electromagnetic function of human DNA and the consciousness reality of the multidimensional human soul spirit. They claim to want to stop human suffering, but have no idea of the alien machinery and mind control implants used to imprison human consciousness. They know nothing about the afterlife, what happens during the death of the body, or even how the human body or universe really works, yet they want to control every aspect of the human body with artificial technology. You know? And so, like, this is exactly what we're talking about here. I feel like I was being called to be initiated or go through a path where I did die, so to speak, and then I was reborn or resurrected with direct connection to my source, my technology. And that's why I have had a deep resistance to AI and technology and what is being presented out there, and the idea of getting implants and chips as if it's going to make someone smarter, when the truth is we need to remember we are electromagnetic frequency, we are light bodies, we are eternal beings. So when we start to understand this fragmented consciousness, like, I can't believe how many people I've met and they're like, oh yeah, you know, I'm basically like, I'm working with AI and I'm downloading all of my intelligence in the computer so that it's like a clone of myself. And I'm like, yikes, this is how cloning is working. And people are actually consenting to the idea of these clones. Yeah, I know that feeling, Heather. I know what you're talking about. I changed so much. My daughter said, you're not my mom. And my brother said he lost his sister. But what was lost was my ego, identity, and personality. I wondered if I was a walk-in or if I simply integrated my oversoul. You know, the more we start to come together and actually start to share our direct encounters and our own personal stories, we can start to put together the pieces of this and start to understand this a little more. It's not one way or the other, right or wrong. It's like we start to put together the pieces and we're like, oh, okay, got it. You know, that makes sense, right? I didn't hear about the idea of a walk-in until about 4 or 5 years after it happened to me, or maybe 3 years. No, 2016, probably around 2020. And I remember sending it to my husband and being like, ex-husband at the time, I was like, I think this is what happened to me. It was like pretty much like you have this near-death experience and you like You leave your identity, you leave your family, you go through a divorce, you leave your house, you know, you leave your job, like you reincarnate. And it wasn't until I received the book, it was the Egyptian book of the, no, it wasn't the Egyptian book of the dead, it was the Tibetan book of the dead. And I was reading it, and it was talking about like incarnating higher souls and reincarnation and death and rebirth. And it's like, there's so many ways to talk about this, but even in the crucifixion of the Christ, you know, it's this idea that you had to get jabbed and stabbed and bleed and be crucified to die, right? And then eventually you're resurrected or you ascend. But in the teaching, you know, Mary goes in there and she like comes out and she's like, he's not there. Like he physically disappeared. But what we're really talking about not being there anymore is the lower nature. So we're just putting together some pieces of the immaterial and the material world and what it actually means to incarnate. And so if we're understanding that we have the ability without technologies actually to understand this, except I'm using technology to talk to you. So I'm trying to find this balance, you know, and not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak. Weird saying, and also quite an interesting story to the history of that, if you think about it. But I'm not here to put a chip in my body. And yet in the same time, my phone directly outside of me in a way is like a chip. You know, I am imprinting it and it is imprinting me. And so in a way, our Facebook account, right, is a reflection of us and is a download of us. And hopefully it's an accurate, true, and authentic representation of you and not a synthetic version of you. This is how you can tell if you still have an ego. Whatever you're hiding, whatever you're editing, whatever you're auditing, whatever you're pretending out there, you know, whatever you're pretending out there that isn't true to who you actually are, because technically our accounts are that. And you're like, whether you have, I've never really gone the Instagram route, but I've utilized the Facebook here and there. And it's like, whatever you're hiding between you and what your Facebook is actually showing about you is a good idea of like where you're still hiding and not transparent or being inauthentic. Like, I'm not saying you need to lay all your shit out, but I am saying don't pretend like you're one thing when you're another thing. Like, probably the last thing I haven't been so fully transparent about in my life has been the challenges that I'm encountering, if you would call it that, on the material plane with money. Because I believe so deeply that we're here to create something new. And so like, it was about 5 years ago, I left behind the financial systems altogether. And I was shown the visions of the new realities and how it would work and how there would be like massive amounts of abundance for everyone. And that there would be an equal measure of material resources for everyone, and that we would be ending poverty. And so I've been on that mission. And in the meantime, there is a gap. It's not so easy. And I thought by now, with being on this path and with paving this way for so long, that we would really be opening up those gates. Like, I've been speaking this vision for a very long time, and there's no one that can talk me out of this. Like, I've had people be like, oh, you have poverty consciousness, your relationship with money is this, or you know, you have a distortion around money, and money is not bad, it's just energy. I'm like, I know. So why the fuck isn't it for everybody? Why is it trapped? Money is trapped currency. Money is a measurement of most people's stress or how much they're selling their self to the system. We're talking about unlocking free energy. Philanthropy unlocks free energy. I'm talking about collective pots of gold to support all. Now, I have Gene Key 14 3 times. It is in my design, the bounteousness, radiating prosperity. And the shadow is compromise. And I'm not here to compromise for the individual self. I'm here for the greater good of all, for the bounty, for the bounteousness for all. That's what I've been called into. And so probably, yeah, I don't get money from the government. I get nothing from anywhere except the occasional session that I do, which I only do by donation. I have been called to not put a price on anything that I give. This is not because I don't believe in myself. I know I am a priceless piece of gold. That's why I'm doing that. That's why I'm paving the way in something, and I'm inviting others to catch on and to start to see the power of continual unconditional giving. But it does have to be opened up. It has to be invited. It's being modeled, but it needs to be reciprocated. And this is the building and the creation of the new earth. And so I've been patient in that process, but it's not always easy. And it's actually put me in quite a position to really see where the holes are and where the deficits are and where the attachments to the material and the finances are, because there's still a big level of greed in the monetary space. And I do see it. I do see that because I offer things by cosmic donation, that it's very easy to want to take for free. It's crazy. I'll have, you know, a light worker that doesn't have much that will give me a $300 donation, and then I'll work with a millionaire and they'll give me $30. You know, it's very fascinating to see how it all works. Money controls people so hard. I mean, I remember it wasn't that long ago where I had bank accounts and logins and passwords and, you know, paychecks and transfers, and I was just constantly, and right now with like cryptos and with Bitcoins and all of that, it's just this constant, like, everyone's just online gambling, spending all their energy and time in the money. Fuck it. When are we going to open up these fucking gates? I'm not selling out. I'm here on the other side, inviting everyone to rise. There is no reason for poverty on this planet. It's disgusting to see the level of greed, and that somebody would be okay with millions of dollars watching someone have nothing. And I've been on boots on the ground witnessing and feeling this energy. And it's sad. It's sad to see it. It's sad to see how deeply controlled people are by money, pretending like they're not. The more money you have, the more you've sold your soul to the devil. You know where the pedophilia comes in? It's like the millionaires and the billionaires are interested in that. Because when you got all that money and you got nothing to do with it, you need a rush. You need some kind of, you know, you need some kind of excitement. You got to go do something that because you've lost your juice. Oh, it's so sad. So I'm not selling out, and I'm not compromising. I know the written prophecies about ending poverty on this earth. I know the written prophecies about activating planetary and genetic abundance. And the fall of Atlantis has to do with greed. It's so much greed. There is no need for greed. Greed is the opposite of ascension. It is the only way that we ascend, is to move through this greed. And I've been put in a position as a humble messenger of this truth, and to start to open people's minds and open people's hearts to like giving, and to give is to receive, and to open up that circuitry, and to open up those gates, and to start to build something more communal and more collective. I'm not talking about bartering and exchanging. I'm talking about there's enough to go around. I'm talking about some Robin Hood type of shit. Take from the rich and give to the poor. And I just hold my patience, as I'm here from the future, and I know money can't control the people forever. And so if it can't be willingly given and willingly contributed and willingly opened up, then it will crash. And this is the invitation on the in-between of that. And so the Pearl sequence talks about this as well. Creating the new systems that start to support and invite this level of philanthropy to unlock free energy. You want to unlock free energy? It's all about unlocking your attachment to the material world and to the monetary world and to like personal individual value versus collective. This is the invitation and this is the initiation that humanity is being called into. Gene Key 45 is a big one about this. You know, I've had people tell me, they're like, you're just too far in the future. You jumped off the train too fast. It's like, no, let's bridge this. Let's bridge this world. Where are my collaborators at on this one? How do we start to open up those cosmic beams and streams back and forth? How do we start to fulfill this prophecy of Gene Key 45 in the communion, where everyone's needs are met? You know, I'm sitting here with that. I'm like, God, I'm so in the 0 point. I'm like, am I really supposed to go back and get like a identification card and a bank account again and start asking for transactional cells? Fuck no, I'm not. I'm from the fucking future. I sacrificed a world of material to come through this eye of the needle to start to speak and to invite this collaboration. And I've been speaking this vision for years. And I have seen beautiful, beautiful hearts along the way that have helped us in times of need. Big time. I mean, talk about humility. Because I was always the one making the big bucks. So I was always the one like, you know, helping out here, helping out there, giving here, giving there. And probably still pretty greedy with the level of money that I had in my life, but still always willing to help out, you know, and always like wanting to contribute to good causes and things like that, and to the people that needed it, and to just like be able to model generosity. But I see how that greed is put into us. It's like I, me, my, and survival of myself, you know? Just waiting for that dam to break for the greater good of all. And I'm staying strong in that vision, and I'm not selling out. That's the 16 connected to the 45. The 16 is a miracle city. It is about unlocking free energy. It's one of the miracle cities. The 14 is one of the miracle cities as well. But the 16 and the 45 go together. And the 45 is about unlocking the communion, unlocking abundance and prosperity on a planetary and a genetic level. And so there are systems to be created. There is generosity to be invited. There are containers to contain this type of generosity and this type of free energy beyond individuals with bank accounts. There is enough to go around. And I wouldn't be able to speak from this place if I didn't. I know that I wrote this for myself to choose to go down and understand what it's like to not have so much, to not be able to just throw money at everything, so that I could relate to everyone. This is how I was able to bring myself into a deep level of compassion, you know, and gratitude for every single little bit, for every bite, for every fruit, for every piece of generosity. You know, this week alone, we had our neighbor come over, and she doesn't know anything about our life and situation, but she comes over every week, and Eduardo does a little sound healing and energy healing on her. And she brought us grapes and lettuce, you know, and then our neighbor brings us a squash and green beans from their garden, you know. How are we going to get the land? It's a good question. You know, who is ready to dematerialize? The 54 code is the ascension code, right? And it is about liquefying your assets, and it's about putting things together. And that's what the Essenes did. The Essenes did this. If you go back to Dead Sea Scroll energies, and you're talking about groups and communities before the Christ, hundreds of years before the idea of this story of Jesus Christ, they gathered their resources, they gathered together, they came together. It's not my land, it's not my money and my land and my taxes, it's something more communal. God, we lost it. We lost it. We almost lost it. Let me say that, because I fucking remember. And I'm here as I carry the 33 in my SQ, and it's from forgetting to revelation. I carry this revelation. I remember the time before the flood. I remember the time before the fall. I remember the time before the deluge. I remember the time even before money and the moon. Before poverty and suffering and inequality. I remember those times, you know? It takes a village. It takes many. It's not just a one-man project. It's not just a one-man thing. People got to get over their own egos and their personal importance to start to build like this. Someone has to buy it, or somebody already has it. I mean, and then I just want to blow the whole thing out of the water. I don't know how anything is owned on this land, on this planet. That's still the crazy part for me. If there's still a wound I need to heal, it's like coming from the Mother Earth wound. And I'm like, who the fuck owns this land? Who's the one that got the first papers on it? Who decides the permits are valid enough to say that somebody owns land and water and that they're the ones that are the boss and the controller of it? I don't consent. I've already done that. I've been on that path for quite some time, where I've lived with, when we decided not to get river vaccinated, and we needed to leave our home, we were invited to live with a family. And the crazy part was it was more like a genetic experiment. We were all the same incarnation cross. Husband and a wife, and me and Eduardo, we were all the cross of contagion, but a different variation of it. And we all had our gifts to bring, and we were all direct opposites of each other. And, you know, some were bringing the clear, calm energy and the wisdom and the inspiration, and some were bringing the resources and the food. And it was quite an interesting, beautiful balance. And so, yeah, I've had a lot of times where when I was the one that had the houses, you know, and opened up my gates to have people come in. And so, yeah, everybody has to do enough of their work. Yes, someone does have to buy it. There are many people out here that have resources to buy it. That's what I mean. It has to come together in a synchronic field. It's not just one man and one bank account. It's not just one person. It's many. It's not me. I'm not here to take any official accounts or sign my name on anything. I'm out of here. I'm just a visionary, and I'm boundless. You know, I'm just a speaker for where we're going and how it's supposed to look, and you don't have to take my word for it. But I don't have any ulterior motives or agendas here. I'm just a messenger. I'm just a visionary. I'm just an oracle. And those messages aren't always taken seriously, and they're not always popular. It's very Christic what I'm speaking. It's very Essenes what I'm speaking. It's very Magdalene what I'm speaking, for those with eyes to see. We're not talking about millionaire Magdalenas over here. We're talking about stealing from the rich and giving from the poor. We're talking about Aladdin. We're talking about Aladdin, you know, with the pure heart that gets into the golden gates. That's the only one that could get into the golden gate, was the one with the pure heart. It's about bringing the resources together. And I've been learning that, on my journey here in Costa Rica, it's been about traveling through all of these different lands and realizing like there's all these things called stewarding. I started to hear this terminology about a steward. And it's like people saying, oh yeah, I'm not an owner of the land, I'm a steward of the land. It's like, no, you're still a boss of this land. You're still controlling it. You're still dominating it. You're still bringing in energy that doesn't actually allow cohesive, harmonious balance and community. It still feels like a level of slavery. It doesn't feel like full collective contribution. I know we're in the beginning stages of this, so I understand. Like, I've been boots on the ground. I'm like, who is a steward? What is a steward? Who holds a steward accountable to integrity and principles of truth? It's like, it's the beginning stages and phases, right? I'm just living the tell. The super rich buy it all up for their agenda. Well, that's already happened. That's what I'm really recognizing. Is that most lands, everything's been bought and Airbnb'd out and owned and called stewarding and operating as 508 churches and tax-free, but there's nothing church about it, So we're at this confrontation. That's why we're talking about it. You might not want to, when you're older, live with people. Yeah, I still believe that we all can have our own operating, like our own homes where we have our individual family units, but that there's a lot more communal coming together. And I have my personal opinions about things. Like, I'm not interested in meat. I'm not really interested in a ton of technology. I'm just speaking the crystal clear visions from the future. There are others that are here to put together more of the pieces of the pie. It takes many, though. It's not just one person. It's just as the 144, I'm kin 144 in the Galactic Maya. I'm here to unite the 144 in order to target. I'm a representation of the informing of the memories of Atlantis and of the flowering of the consciousness. And I'm here to unite the tribe so that we can remember what it is that we're here to do. We all have a different role. And that's what I've learned so much about this, and so much about the mathematics of this universe, and so much about the gene keys, is that there are tools and principles and astrological designs that are languages and patterns that can help us see, like, everyone has a gift. Everyone has a superpower. Everyone has an ability. Some people have the knowledge and the wisdom. Some people have the energy. Some people have the resources. When all of that comes together, it makes beautiful art. And that's the invitation. Holy shit, I can't believe we're already at 2:08. I'm gonna close this out. The only thing I'm gonna leave you with right now is the 7 sacred seals and the biological apocalypse, okay? And I'm gonna read specifically the unlocking of sacred seal number 1, which is gene key 40, which is from the shadow of exhaustion to divine will. So sacred seal number 1, gene key 40. The reason I'm going here is because in tropical, I see that the moon and Venus are in Virgo at gene key 40. All right, so I'm just reading this one off to you. Heather, if good people don't buy, the bad ones will. The Essenes had some in financial responsibility as well. Anastasia talks about not taking up the pristine and caring for the land. If we care for the land and care for it and create an ecosystem for our species diversification, we are stewards. You can reforest. Now there are many birds, snakes, skunks, and many critters. Yeah, it really is written. That's why we're just like, these are the Essene teachings I'm bringing through. This is very much the Anastasia. You know, when people started to bring Anastasia to me, they were like, have you heard of Anastasia? Have you heard of Anastasia? And they were explaining her to me, and I was like, oh, it sounds like me. I basically did live in the forest with the animals without the monetary and the business and the capitalistic, but I did live in it, so I know it. I lived in that hustle and that bustle. I lived in the financial realms. I lived in the taxes and the mortgages and the cost of healthcare and business and success. And that's the difference between what you might say with someone that's been a Buddha in the cave the whole time. See, what we're talking about is being able to have lived in the industrious world, and also to live to tell and to speak of it and to know it and to walk out of it, and then to be okay, how do we put these pieces together? I know this world. I came from that world. I left that world behind, and here's what I have to say about it. How do we bridge the world? How do we create sustainable realities? How do we? What do we? When do we? Who? We're just in the beginning stages of this phase. There's a lot of solutions out there already. So it's about putting networks together of the ones that really care about this and have been called to this. I see there's just a couple, it's a Tetris game. It's just a couple things needing to fall back into place, because we've all been getting the visions. This is numerical in nature. This is prophecy, right? So it's just got to come together and click into place. And so there's just a patience, it's kind of like I said before, how a baby is born. You were born at the exact birth date and time, no matter of your birth story, if your mom went early or late, premature or not, you were always going to come in at that very particular moment in time. It's just numerical code at the end of the day. Mine is 11181982, 1315 at latitude 35. Everything is numerical. That was my birth date, right? That's my code. Besides the one the government gives you, the social security number code. How funny, right? And so we have a code that we arrive in on this planet, on this incarnation with. And so when you start to understand that, I'm using childbirth as an example of this. It's all right, you're pregnant with a child, in approximately 9 months, they're going to arrive out of your body. And if you then from a level of consciousness know that whatever time and date they're supposed to be born, regardless of the due date my doctor gave me or anything like that, if I know that that's already predetermined, all I'm going to do is be patient about it. All I'm going to do is be patient. And I know the time will come at the perfect moment in time, because I know there is a divine will. I know there is a divine design. I know there is a cosmic order. So I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be still. I'm going to speak a vision. I'm going to invite it. I'm going to paint the picture of it. I'm going to speak from that space, but I'm not going to force it. I'm going to be patient about that. And so that's the same with any of these visions that I'm talking about. I know they're meant to be. I don't know how and who. I just know they're meant to be. And now it's all coming into the crowning, so to speak, before the birth. It's that head's about to pop. It's a birth canal. And so we each have a piece and a part in our roles. And so, including I have to accept I'm not a gardener. I am not here. I plant seeds, don't get me wrong. But that's not my specialty. The synarchy, Gene Key 44, talks about the synarchy. It's not the matriarchy, it's not the patriarchy, it's the synarchy, where we all lead together, where we all come together, where everyone knows their part because they're good at it and they're passionate about it. And they don't need a demander or a commander to go and tell them what to do. I'm doing my job. This is my role. This is my job. This is what I'm meant to do. This is what I'm good at. This is what comes natural to me. And then there are others on the team, others in the family. They have different knowledge, skills, and abilities than I do. I'm not meant to do their job, and they're not meant to do my job. And how beautiful is that, right? So there is someone there that knows the permaculture and knows the gardening and knows the growing of the food. It's meant to be like that. We're not all here to wear many hats, actually. There are specialized fields. I'm all about versatility. I do have many many things that I know how to do, but I have the things I know that are very natural for me, that are coming out of me naturally, that are the impulse of inspiration that are coming out of me. You know, that's my role. That's my specialized field. And so each and every person has a specialized field. And when we get all of those people together, they are all equal in order. They're all equal in balance. They are all very important, each and every one. You know, there's builders and there's growers and there's healers and there's speakers and there's resourcers, and it all comes together. And so there's no force about it. And there doesn't need to be a hierarchy or a boss going, you do that, you do that. This is self-organizing intelligence. It's written in the code. It's cosmic design. No one needs to be the authority of anyone, you know? All right, so I'm going to read you just real quick the 7 sacred seals in the biological apocalypse. In the sacred book of Revelation, St. John the Divine wrote down, this is from Gene Key 22. In the sacred book of Revelation, St. John the Divine wrote down his famous description of the apocalypse, the so-called Judgment Day, where all world karma is finally redeemed and all human suffering brought to an end. Despite centuries of misunderstanding by religion, the revelation of St. John contains some of the greatest initiatic secrets ever written down. One of these secret teachings is known as the 7 sacred seals. In allegorical form, St. John describes the subsequential process of the opening of each of the 7 seals by an angel and the subsequent unfolding of the 7 stages of the apocalypse itself. It's not until the final 7th seal is opened that evil is conquered and humanity ascends to a higher plane. So you could say that we're in that final seal right now, the 7th seal. Gene Key 7 unlocks the 7th seal. When we decipher this allegory, we can see that each of the 7 seals and its accompanying angel represents an agent of grace, an involving spiritual force or city descending from the higher vehicles and directly affecting human DNA. The apocalypse is really a biological phenomenon. That's why they call it the biological apocalypse. I really like that. It's an inner apocalypse in the cells, in the genes. A judgment day within our genes as a new species of human prepares to be born. Within the matrix of the 64 gene keys, there are 6 gene keys that directly reflect this involving power of grace, the 7th being the 22nd city of grace itself. All right, so now I'm just going to do the opening of the 22nd city of grace always works through the field of these 6 cities or divine attributes. And so this is what I like to do when I look at your gene keys chart. And if you ever want to do a personal deep dive with me, just message me about it. We can see that each of the 7 sacred seals is a divine code sent down from higher consciousness to heal a specific aspect of the sacred wound. Just as there are 6 aspects to the sacred wound, so there are 6 divine aspects responsible for healing that wound. This process takes place both individually and collectively, and is described below. So I'm just going to open the first seal today because Venus and the moon are in Virgo right now at this particular seal in tropical astrology. The opening of the first seal, divine will. The first seal is opened by the city of divine will, which heals human repression. So it's the wound of repression. So we can all kind of feel into this energy. And if you want to read Gene Key 40, you can, and ask yourself, where am I carrying the wound of repression? Which I actually say is light trapped in matter. Repression is the primary wound of humanity, since it refers to the very storage of karma in the DNA of the physical body. So we're talking about how we've repressed the storage of karma in the DNA of our physical body. It is because of the layers and layers of karma in your DNA that the higher subtle bodies are obscured from your awareness. Karma is a deep physical tension expressed as fear, and it inhabits every cell of your body. So tension in your body has to do with stored karma. Only through the grace of the 40th city can this karma be transmuted. So we're transmuting the karma that's stored in our DNA at this time. The 40th city represents divine will, which is the only force powerful enough to transform all the layers of tension. Divine will actually means complete relaxation. So as this seal opens throughout humanity, the physical body finally comes into complete relaxation. As it relaxes progressively into deeper and deeper states, the higher subtle bodies can express themselves fully. In the end, your body becomes nothing more than a completely relaxed instrument of divine will. Because this seal has to do with releasing the core tension from the physical body, at a collective level, it will eventually eradicate all disease from our planet. And so that's the power of all the seals. They're here to eradicate disease, to end poverty, to end war. This is actually like the code for evolving humanity out of the wounds of repression and guilt and shame, changing the ways we use money in the world, all of it. And so this particular code, the wound of repression, has to do with tension in the body. And that's why I always say this is the most simple practice of it. A calm, relaxed nervous system allows the divine will to flow through. And so a calm, relaxed nervous system knows there's a divine plan. They know there's a divine will. They've surrendered to the plan. They breathe and they relax so that the divine can come through the vessel. Being nervous or fearful about anything or stressed about anything does not make anything happen in a more resolved situation. The true resolution comes from a calm, relaxed nervous system. A calm, relaxed nervous system allows the divine will to come through. And that's why I have made the proposal that when you are in a hospital-like setting on anesthesia, that your body is so relaxed that the divine currents can come through where there used to be resistance or tension, you know? And so I have proposed the idea when someone is going in for a surgery, I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna have a walk-in. I'll talk to them on the other side. Because I do tend to come into contact with people after they've had a near-death experience or a surgery or some kind of impactful event, where I am here to assist them in integrating their oversoul. So I'm going to close it out with that 222 on the mic tonight. Tomorrow is 213 Cosmic Dragon. We'll finally be closing out this purification wave of 13 days. It's been a wild ride. If you're feeling like you want to connect on the one-on-one scale, send me a private message. I do it all by cosmic donation. And let's keep these wheels rolling. Much love to all of you, and we'll see you on Monday. See you on Monday at 10:44 Eastern.
For the past few years, we've made many videos on great men who tried to alleviate the suffering of humanity by healing the body and treating all kinds of diseases, which Western medicine deemed uncurable. From Royal Rife, the man who created a frequency machine that disintegrates bacteria and cancer cells, to Wilhelm Reich, the man who discovered orgone energy and created an orgone accumulator device that cured hundreds of people from all sorts of diseases. Both of these great men paid harshly for their discoveries, which threatened the established medical industry and their trillions of dollars of yearly profit from cancer treatments. Royal Rife's discoveries and frequency healing machine were destroyed entirely while he was sued, and although he won his lawsuit, he was left entirely bankrupt. Wilhelm Reich was also sued and even thrown in prison, where he died mysteriously. His orgone accumulator device, together with all of his research on orgone energy, was also destroyed. Unfortunately, the man to whom this video is dedicated suffered a very similar fate. Dr. Sebi, a holistic healer and herbalist who discovered a natural cure for AIDS, cancer, and all sorts of diseases, was also ridiculed, sued, and eventually thrown in prison, where he was allegedly poisoned.